Afternoon, Doug, and other folks. Please feel free to turn your cameras on if you have that capability. This is a meeting more so than a webinar. So if we can see each other, that'd be great. If not, at least we can talk to each other. Few more people here showing up. So in the meanwhile, you do have the ability to unmute, and or if you do not have audio, there's always the chat function there. So welcome, folks. I'm BK, director of the Maintenance Institute. Welcome to our final edition of Maintenance Roundtables for 2023. The focus is kind of a year in review, if you will. So I have a few questions that I have to at least try to keep conversation going, but I want this experience to be the most valuable for you. So it's about what questions you're coming with, and let's also, celebrate our success for the year. So this is an opportunity. If you have some things that maybe you'd like to share with folks, or you have something to put a feather in your hat, please feel free. This is an opportunity to boast shamelessly, if you will. Um, I will say that the Institute has had a great year. We've been seeing some real growth, at least in awareness. Now the next step is to get more people engaged. We have had some um, on-demand training opportunities. I can see Doug there, and his municipality, for example, was someone that took advantage, reached out and said, "Hey, we could use some chainsaw training," and so we put an event together for them, and that's great for the institute because we're starting to be looked at as the go-to, and that's what we're trying to be. Because from the feedback that I have been receiving as I connect with people, there isn't an entity out there holistically focusing on maintenance and operations across different industries that are applicable to many industries. And so that's what I'm trying to do. So at least that helps me put a positive report to the powers that be above me, and then some of the funding sources that we talk to, especially like the state and things like that. But I'd like to hear from you. Let's start off hearing some success that you guys would like to brag about. And it doesn't have to be yours. It could be to your departments, folks within your department, and it's professional and personal. Why not? We're a community here. So let's share some of our successes.
I mean, I'll jump in. We were able to have a pretty successful turf blanket process this year for our athletic field
Okay.
because I get November, December, and through March to get them ready to go by spring, so they can get destroyed basically from March through November of the next year. Um, so we instituted that process. Well, it would have been last year, and had some good results. We had some good growth back, and the amount of area that we had to blanket this year reduced. So it's working. It'll take time, but
So just to jump in, yeah, I'm big on
yeah.
the blanketing and things, especially on the turf side. But what made you move to that and find that budget? Because turf blankets are not cheap, and then also, where did you figure out how to schedule that and get the buy-in that we're actually closing the field for this period of time? Because sometimes you can't even get communities to do that.
Right. Well, I mean, so I have experience in a previous township, um, where we instituted it as well. We were at the time spending way too much money on sod year in and year out, and having to replace it year in and year out because you could never get it to establish properly, with the field use needs. So um, brought that here. We had some funds available to buy the blankets. We bought 7-year blankets, so they'll last us for 7 years. maybe a little longer. Um, and really, then it's just um, working with what we have in our budgets and everything for seating and so forth. And I mean, really, the areas that I focused on previously last year, we did some lip work on one of our baseball fields that had major ponding every time we had rain. Um, so I had to reestablish the edges of the baseball field, and we ended up having one of the better fields in the area. A lot of times where our organizations had away games scheduled, they ended up playing at ours once there was a rain earlier in the day because our field was still playable.
Because you're taking care of it. Let's imagine
Right, right,
that.
exactly. And then we also focused a lot on our soccer field. Our soccer field gets tons and tons of use, and it just between Reynolds and our soccer organization that utilizes it. And we had one goal established back really well. We focused the goal mouth and then the center field area. One
Are
goal
you
mouth
able to
being,
rotate where that happens, or are they pretty much because of the amount of size you have, the goals are always where the goals go?
yeah, the goals were pretty much where they're at. It's a
Okay.
shared field. It's the baseball field that we did the lips on are also the outfields, the soccer field. So there's not there's not a whole lot of ability to rotate it around and everything. So
Right. Do you
so
find that
we
you use a lot more top fit, top dressing because of that, where you're starting to get bowls, or do you have a regular enough aeration schedule to keep that healthy?
we have a regular enough aeration schedule. Fortunately, when I got here, we had our own aerator already.
Okay.
So we have a pretty um, strong aeration schedule, and if we need it, I'll do it while they're playing, and just give them heads up saying I'm aerating it. You're gonna get the plugs. Make sure you run over it a lot because you'll break it down for us and get it
Yeah.
back in the ground.
You don't need the
So
top dress as much. You just let them run the plugs back in.
right, exactly. So so I mean, what I would do something like that would be basically during a practice period of time and not so much
Sure.
when they get game scheduled.
Yeah,
But
I imagine moms and dads coming out game day don't want to see those little goose turds all over the field, right?
right, exactly. But yeah, so that was really strong for us. And then I just two things with the institute. Just throw kudos out to the institute. One was setting up a chainsaw class for not only our park staff but also our public works staff. We have had a lot of turnover there, and a lot of the guys on the crew have never gone through a formal training. And everything that I got back from the public works director and my park maintenance staff personnel is they loved it. They got a lot out of it, and it was really really good overall. And the other thing that the institute helped us out with is they did a webinar on tree roots and trails, um, and I was able to formulate a strategy to combat an area that we've had uprooting on a trail section,
Oh, okay, great.
and it's budgeted. We're going to do it early spring of next year. I mean, we got to pretty much pull the entire section of trail, cut the roots, root barrier it, and then repave it. But that will be
Oh, you're
a
going all the
major
way
for.
into doing a repave and everything too. So you really budgeted for it then. Okay.
Well, yeah, I had to. I mean, the amount of uprooting, it's literally like moguls on that section of the trail. I rode that section of trails numerous times, and I mean, if you're not paying attention, you could get hurt. So I mean,
Okay.
we have them spray painted like everybody else. It's yellow, so people are aware that there's bumps and everything like that. But yeah, it's and with coming up with the strategy and the plan, and after the webinar that I sat in, I have another project going on with Tree Vitalize with DCNR. When I
Yep.
had the state forester out and someone from DCNR, looking at that project, we popped over and took a look at the trail. I kind of went through the game plan with them. They totally were on board with it, agreed with everything that we were going to do with it. So yeah, spring of probably March of next year. Because the nice thing is I don't have to get certified asphalt to do the project. Um, so
You can
plant
do
will
small
be,
works within house, right?
yeah, plant will be open enough to get us the asphalt we need. Um, but I don't need it certified for roads, so we should be pretty good to get that done.
Great. And that's good promotion for us as well. I appreciate that feedback.
Yeah, no
Eh,
problem. And it was crazy too because I missed the original presentation of it. It was sitting there as a recording of the webinar, and I was able to sit down through it. I pulled a lot of the pictures and slides to be able to present both to our public works department and everything. And it just I was like, seriously, this is exactly what I need. So
It's not rocket
it
science, you know.
was
Sometimes we
right,
make things too complicated.
right. Um, and we have an organization because this section of the trail is on a large trail section or trail system that we have in the Harrisburg region called the Capital Area Greenbelt. And there's an association called the Capital Area Greenbelt Association. So we're going to be partnering with them, possibly for some funding assistance to maybe offset the cost for the barriers, and then we're going to
There
take
you
care of
go.
the
Let
rest
somebody
of
else
it.
pay for the material
So,
at least, right?
well, and I mean, I do sit on the board as well of the organization, um, but we recently set up a MOU with that organization
Okay.
because we are the ultimate owners of the trails within our municipality. We own the easements. We constructed the trails originally, and they kind of over the years were leaned upon or expected to maintain the trail, which
So they're your assets.
right,
Yeah,
but for that organization to maintain it to a proper level, they do a phenomenal job, but they are volunteers, so there has to be really some better understanding overall of kind of what the municipality's true role is and what we need to do to protect ourselves, and the volunteers that are out there. So
sure.
we developed this MOU and created a true partnership. And it also will then solidify the trail in the future as you get new leadership or new staff in. There's an understanding of when new people come on board. This is what we're doing. This is what we're expected to do. This is what they'll assist us with, or because they're really a support organization and not the organization of the trails. So
Good. Well, Danny, I see in the chat there, this is your first time joining us. Well, welcome. Thank you. I want you to know this is an open meeting. So I see you're unmuted. I don't know if you have the capability to talk, but feel free to use the chat too. Jump in. Right now, we're just kind of openly saying, what were some of the successes we've had this year so far, thinking back, or some of the challenges that maybe you need some help with for next year. John, and I'm sorry, ours Nick or Nick or whoever the other person there too. This is an open meeting. We please unmute and feel free to jump in.
It's actually Alan Resnick. Or
Alan,
Al.
sorry,
Al works.
Resnick. Okay,
Al works
Al.
fine.
Well, thank you, Al. How are you
Yeah.
doing?
Good, good. Thank you. You?
I am well. So,
Excellent.
any successes you would like to share with us to open
Well,
up, or any challenges that you're kind of looking to get answered?
well, we had some real successes this year in Redmond, Washington. Uh, we added on to a community garden and actually added accessible plots for people with their challenge in moving around. Let's see, we opened our first dog park that was actually a pop-up dog park. So we take it down in the winter and put it back up in the summer, and it was a
Okay.
big hit, big success. I mean, it rains so much here in the wintertime. People aren't really looking, for a lot of, they let their dog out and let it run for a minute in the winter, but in the summertime, it was a big hit. So those were two of our real big successes here.
And where are you located at?
Redmond, Washington, home of Microsoft.
Okay. I was based out in Ellensburg for a number of years
Ah,
before I
yes,
found myself
yes.
back in Pennsylvania.
Center of the state.
That's right. That's right. High desert.
Yeah.
So I'm interested then in a pop-up dog park. How logistically, how did that come about, and or how did you choose a site for something like that?
Well, the site was kind of that they went through also, and it was of course political. So there was a lot of
No, it
places
wouldn't be
they,
political in Washington. I can't
yeah,
imagine
no,
that.
no.
No.
I mean, everything in Washington is political. So, but yeah, they chose a site that was a rather flat site, and we came in and put up temporary fencing. Um, it was, I mean, everybody here has a dog, it seems, which I mean, I'm guilty too. So, uh, and the city didn't really offer anywhere for people to take their dogs and run them, throw the frisbee anywhere. So it's a contained area. There's an area for large dogs, an area for small dogs. You can throw the frisbee, dog safe, can't get out of the area. Um, yeah, it worked out really well, I think. And people were really, actually, the public was really respectful because, you think about, some of the troubles with dogs, but we didn't have a lot of those at least. People picked up behind themselves. The one thing we did find is that, if it, since it is wet here, they can chew up the ground really well. And so we had to stay on
Absolutely.
top of the turf maintenance with the area and such. So, but yeah, big success. And then the other one was just like I said, the community gardens. We added on to ours and actually installed some accessible plots for people that are challenged and moving around. So big hit. Everything they were rented within minutes. I think they went up on the website for the city and they were gone like that fast.
Are they
So
all raised beds is what you went with, or did you go with any in ground at all?
there there's there's some raised beds and then there's some in-ground beds. So it's kind of a mixture
Okay.
of garden types. But
And for your
yeah.
accessible, was that mainly the pathway and things to it, or did you actually do raised
Yep,
beds
we
to
raised
go
beds.
like that?
They're
Okay.
they're about 3 feet tall, and then yeah, the paths to those were also accessible. So yeah, it was really some cool stuff.
Yeah, great examples. What kind of infrastructure did you find that did you put infrastructure in to meet the design, or did you kind of fit around and retrofit to make it work
We
when
actually
you went
came
with
in,
it?
designed it, and put it in. Yeah, everything in the area is new.
Oh wow. So
Yeah.
does everything have its own water source, or is there
Yep,
one?
we ran
Oh
water
wow.
to it.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's all fenced in so the deer can't eat everything. So yeah, really nice area. I wish I could show you some pictures, but I'm kind of computer challenged. So
That's okay. No, that's great though. Some great stories there. Good successes.
yeah.
Looks like Danny's still working on his mic. John, do you have the ability you want to jump in there?
Yeah, sure. I'll jump in. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. You guys ask that question, then it's like, well, if somebody responds, then yeah, it's not that. Here, let me see if I can get turn my camera on too. This makes it a little nicer. Well, I'm over here in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Yeah, just kind of, getting into the Maintenance Institute here, being a parks guy, I've always noticed there's kind of a gap here um, on the park side of things, at least here in the state. I'm really involved with the state association, a little bit involved with NRPA, but it always seems to be so rec heavy and rec focused and things like that. And I'm on the park section or I'm the chair for our park section for state of Colorado, and really just trying to re-energize people to re-engage folks around, park maintenance and operations. I feel like the engagement kind of lacks, and so uh, I've seen a few emails from you, and some different conversations and topics that I thought were really interesting and addressing some of the things that I'm interested in. So figured I'd start attending some of these and see what you guys got going on, because it sounds like you're really trying to fill a gap that I also see needs to be filled. So thanks for bringing up some of this and offering it to anybody who wants to come along. Um, but yeah, some of the successes, I'm the skilled maintenance supervisor for the Parks, Recreation, Cultural Services Department. So essentially, I have a team of 9 tradespeople in all different kinds of trades: welding, concrete, um, locksmithing. We run the sign shop. I have a playground specialist. But we're a large municipality. We have over 170 parks. We cover a really wide range of ground. We're actually the largest city in Colorado. Denver has a higher population, but as far as land mass goes, we're just spread out more. We're also a very conservative town, city that, doesn't offer us a very big budget. They're very, very constrained budget wise. So we're always trying to come up with uh, different ways to do things, because we just don't have the resources to accomplish as many things. But it makes us very resourceful, and it actually makes the people that work here just some of the most outstanding people to work with because of that. Because
We
you
call
have
that
to
hillbilly engineering here in Pennsylvania.
you've if you want to get it done, you got to figure out a way to do it. The money might not be there. So I think a big win for my team this year, we get spread in so many different directions, but we ended up working with our police department, and we secured a $1.8 million grant through the state to improve some security at probably our biggest regional park in our city. It's got a lot of crime happening there. Um, and so those infrastructure improvements included adding over 200 light poles and adding gates at 20 entrances into the park, between all the entrances, exits, parking lots that you could access, to help kind of shut down some of the vehicle traffic, homelessness, and things that we have going on in there that we'd like to try to manage a little bit better. So that was a huge win to get that. And the lighting was contracted out through our local utility company, um, to help with that. But my team we fabricated, designed, built all 22 gates and installed all of those, which they're really large gates. And to have a small team, and we had a 6-month window to do all this, that was part of the grant. And I think that's why we received it, because we have so many shovel-ready projects. We're just not.
That's the buzzword. Put it in the quotes right there. Shovel ready. They love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, it helped us to receive that funding, because I don't think there was a whole lot of people that we were competing with that said, hey, we've got all these projects, or, we've got a project that we can complete within 6 months. And we have tons of that stuff because we don't have the funding usually. So to be able to pull that off in such a short period of time, to say, hey guys, let's get out there and get all the materials, get everything fabbed up, get it all installed. I mean, we ordered over 55,000 pounds of steel and then fabricated it into all of these gates. So it was pretty impressive for us.
So you
To
were
be
able
able
to use all your time as the in-kind match essentially for the grants, or at least a large portion of it.
Yeah, the major cost portion of this um, was the lighting. I think on the gate portion, that we, out of a $1.8 million grant, I think ours was somewhere around 200,000. But yeah, we used most of that money because we had to pay the contractors to put in all the lighting and boring and do everything to get the infrastructure out there,
Right.
in that short period of time. So yeah, I don't think we would have had the money in the grant. And quite honestly, I don't think we would have been able to turn it around to find a contractor that would be able to get all the materials, fab up to specifications, because we don't actually have those specs written down for those gates. We just have guys that know how to build them in the shop.
Napkins.
Yeah. Yeah, we got some really smart fabricators and concrete guys that just been doing it a long time, you know, so they know we put in gates all over the place, so they just know how to pull it off. And so that was yeah, it'd be interesting, you know, I'm really trying to get us we've had some good management changes here recently. Nothing bad about the old management. Loved our old director and our previous parks manager. They had just retired out of their positions, but such a rapidly growing city, and they had always operated in as kind of, I would say, political operatives. Um, you know, hey, I go into meetings, I talk to people, we talk it out, we figure it out. There wasn't a whole lot of justification for things. I'm like, how are
Right.
we making, you know, I've been here for about 3 years, and when I came in, I'm like, well, how are we making decisions? You know, how are we justifying things? How are we tracking using data to make kind of smart decisions and to present leadership with justifiable data? And kind of the response I had received was, well, we tried that, you know, we don't think it's worth it for the amount of time that it takes and all these systems to put it in and to do all that. And because we're so budget constrained, these conversations is just how that's gone. And so you probably shouldn't really waste your time doing all that. And I said, okay, well, new management and leadership has a different opinion of that, which I'm happy about. So we're really trying to get our grasp around some of these things. But yeah, like the labor cost on that portion of that project, you know, I mean, we don't track any of that. So getting into
Okay.
that to prove like our value, I think is going to be really important for us moving forward. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I have been trying to get more and more. I've been trying to simplify it so it's not so time consuming to keep track of what you do every day, because realistically, we have the systems in front of us. We just may not recognize that system can do that, or we're not using the data the way that it should be. You know, we are finding the powers that be are retiring, and the because I said so mentality does not work with the future workforce. And so instead of trying to push things through, we need to figure out ways to pull the process through, because we are going to have, this is my opinion, but when I look at public works and when I look at operations in general, especially in our industry, your age is pretty high in the average. If you look at your public works, especially in rural areas, we're above 50 into the 60s as your average staff age. You know, you may be lucky in your more urban or suburban areas where you have a younger pool. But I look at Pennsylvania, especially central northern Pennsylvania, and I talk with those folks and I say, well, what is the future? Well, I'm not worried. I'm retiring in a couple of years. Yeah, well, who's keeping the roads plowed? Who's keeping the parks lights changed? Those kind of things. So what is that kind of plan? I mean, I'd be interested to hear folks here, you know, what we have some younger faces. That's great to see too. But we also have some faces that are like mine. Uh, we're not immediately out the door, but we are looking, you know, with the next decade or so to not have to work as much. What are we doing to make sure that we're not just saying, yeah, your problem now? Because that's what we're going to get in our lap pretty soon.
Well, and
Yeah.
PK,
Yeah. I
I think
don't
that,
think,
no,
you know,
go ahead, John.
oh, having uh, some bench warming, people coming up through the ranks. And yeah, I know we're looking at, and you know, as these senior maintenance technicians retire and things like that, instead of going back and trying to fill those highly skilled positions, really looking at changing those positions and converting them to entry level positions and just trying to get people the opportunity to move up. I know that's a strategy our new managers, you know, trying to drill into everybody. Hey, you know, we may take a little bit of a hit on losing that, but we're going to lose those guys regardless. We're going to lose that knowledge. Well, sure, you could hire a concrete guy with, 15, 20 years of experience, but how about the guy who shows up over here every day and works hard, who's been here, for a year or two, or let's get some of those newer guys in here. And quite honestly, our budgets are so difficult, but I'd like to get them in before that guy retires so that they can pick up on some of these skills and trades and things before that person's out the door. I don't know if anybody has any strategies for that, uh,
That
how do you,
that's well, that's a whole different discussion, really. But yeah, that's good. Very good points. Use that Pittsburgh Steelers mentality of football as build your team as opposed to the Cowboys that just buy their teams.
mm, yeah.
Doug, what were you gonna say?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a municipal government crisis across the board. We've been trying to hire a zoning officer for, I don't know, 4 or 5 months now. And it's just one, the younger generation isn't typically looking at municipal government as a career path. They don't either understand it or they don't really see it as a future. And the other thing is, I mean, you get, as you were saying, BK, you get a lot of these median ages of 50 and 60 over in these public works sites and everything like that. And it's really the structure of the union contracts for the most part. I mean, they become so lucrative for these guys, and they've worked it that the work isn't that difficult, and they're making great salaries, and they can put their 8 hours a day in and move on with their day. And I mean, kind of hearing and seeing some of the things through our overall union that we have in our public works department, I mean, it can get very lucrative very quickly. If you stay on for a year and a half to 3 years, you're looking at significant pay increase and everything. And but the younger generation they've been programmed so much to be office and like that type of career path. Go to college and do your business or whatever you're going to college for. And that's why you all of a sudden now are seeing this massive push on trades and go to trade schools and everything like that. So so yeah, I was very fortunate. So when I started here, I've only been in this township for 2.5 years as the park and rec director, 15 years in another municipality previously. But when I got here, I had a blank slate to kind of redevelop the entire department. And my first park maintenance person I brought in, he was here seasonally with me for a year, almost 2 years, actually, before we brought him on full time. And it was a younger person who didn't really have a direction or career direction where he wanted to go. And really, what I had him doing when he started was picking up trash. I taught him how to drag a baseball field and simple things. And he would show me, he would come up to me and say, "Hey, did you see this park?" And he researched parks and started learning on his own. And it was right around when they opened Island Park in New York, where they built it on all the piers. He's like, "Did you see this? This looks awesome." And he started showing true interest. And we brought him on full time. He's taken it upon himself to learn things, and I get him to the trainings, and he's gotten his pesticide certifications and got his chainsaw instruction and everything like that. And has come to me and found he feels he's found his path. So I was very lucky to come with that. But we struggle every day because there's historical knowledge that is totally gone. It went out the door before I was here or right after I got here, and we struggle a lot because of an infrastructure that was already put in place. And it's like, trying to find some information or anything to kind of solve an issue or fix something has been daunting at times. So
It's
yeah,
kind of a scary thought too, because that legacy knowledge, if it's not getting captured with our technologies like GIS and mapping and those, and it's all, up here, all of a sudden you call 811. Well, he retired. Holy crap, what are we going to do? That was what we were
right.
supposed to do. We call 811. 811 retired last year. Like, oh, whoa, what? So that's the reality some of us may be running into in our municipalities.
Oh yeah, I deal with it we had a well pump go bad. And we were able to use our water cannon with this well pump previous to the time I got here. The well pump sat dry and unrun for 3.5 years. It died because it just kind of rusted shut.
Maybe
Replaced the well pump, but now I can't get the water cannon to work. It's not getting enough pressure to it. And I've been going round and round with the well company, like, did you do something to the new well pump? Why is it not working? But I have nobody around that actually operated the water cannon to irrigate our fields because they're all gone. And it's like, I'm like out in the wind with this, trying to figure this all out right now. And
I
been
guess jumping on
frustrating.
John's question, and we'll see if Al maybe has an answer too. But like, what are we currently doing to not maybe keep the snowball of ignorance moving forward? How are we capturing what we know now? What kind of systems are we putting in? Or, it doesn't have to be an app or something fancy. It could be just actually putting it on paper. But like, what are we doing to make sure we're not continuing this problem?
Well, what I'm what we do here, not that it's the answer, but we take pictures. I mean, everything we do here, we take a picture. It goes into every one of us that has some sort of file folder. We take a picture, label it, put it there.
That's good.
It's accessible for people and it's easy. You don't need to be able to, dig around for hours and hours looking for something. A simple picture will show you. So it's simple and effective, I guess. So that's one way.
Absolutely. I'm getting into pinball machine repair, and that's what I do. Every time I take something apart, I take a picture every time, every step.
Yeah,
So
and I
that
mean,
way I can remember how to put the damn thing back together again.
everybody's packing a phone these days. I mean, it's a requirement here. So, what's it take to take a picture? 1 second, big deal. It'll save you a headache much later.
Good points.
Yeah, you can't beat a picture for sure. I think the thing like where I would struggle with that is like when you have 170 parks that you maintain and you have a lot of stuff going on, how do you then organize all of that data and information in a way that actually is accessible? And how do you manage all that? I'd be interested, really interested to know if people have good asset management systems and work order systems that work for them
What's your budget? That's the short answer on that. Again, I've done webinars on CMMS. And so you can go down the rabbit hole of like Pittsburgh, for example. The city of Pittsburgh uses Cartograph, which is a fantastic program, but it's 6 figures a year, depending on the number of users that you got in that system.
we have
Um,
cartograph, yeah.
you can do the same thing with a spreadsheet in reality. It's a
Yeah.
matter of just having the communication process and everyone on board. Because even if you're spending $100,000 a year, if the people out there doing the work, doing the inspections, the ones that are supposed to be taking the pictures, don't use it, you're wasting your money. So as an example, it's not exactly parks maintenance, but when I was working for Central Washington University, I was tasked with creating something that got all the building. I ran the student union, so we needed to get everybody on board of what was happening at any period of time because we were the county emergency location. So if wildfires happened in the area, we had to set up beds. We had examples of active shooter situations, all sorts of stuff going on. So, but that was what we had to do. And after 7 o'clock at night, it was run by students. We didn't have any full-time staff running any of those facilities other than a custodian, which had no authority whatsoever. So the students ended up becoming the authorities at that period. And on the weekends, we had no full-time staff because we were all state employees. We're not getting paid overtime to show up. So we use Trello. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but it's a task management tool. But you can take anything. It's just a matter of making things fit the way you need to do it. And then the decision was, this is how we communicate moving forward. Everyone had to use it. And so, well, I'm not using my personal phone. That's fine. We got duty phones. You show up, here you go. This is your phone. You want to use your own phone? Well, I don't want the duty phone. Now I got to carry around 2 phones. All right, put it on your phone then. That's, so that's a personal decision at that point. But what we did was that was how we all communicated moving forward. All schedules went on there. Every single task that anybody did went into that system. And so that way you had a time tracking stamp, because anytime somebody ticked the tick box, boom, you knew when that tick box got ticked or unticked. Anytime somebody drug something from one column to the other column, boom, timestamp, and you know who did it. And so all of these things also kept everybody accountable. So that you could also say, oh, if I saw that all the tasks for the evening happened to get ticked at 11:59 because we closed at 12, I mean, you were just doing it all at the end of your shift as opposed to doing it as you're going. And so it gives you those kind of tools. But you could also just do that with paper. I mean, look at how many call boxes, that whole thing, like you even see it in Porta-John. Somebody went and cleaned it. They signed their initials and then they move on. Any of those systems can do exactly what we're talking about. It's just making sure everybody does it consistently.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I'd be interested for sure to, if you know somebody in a parks department that uses Cartograph successfully, if I could connect with
The
them.
Pittsburgh folks, they are, and that's another example. I don't know if it's a unicorn, but Pittsburgh parks are managed by Public Works. It's in the Public Works umbrella. So they're not Parks and Rec. It's just Public Works that manages the park side of things. So that's another conversation. I know Doug has a good relationship with his Public Works, and he only has one staff that's dedicated to parks. So that creates a different kind of atmosphere. If you don't have that positive relationship, I imagine Doug can say that things don't really get done as quickly or even when you need it.
Yeah, it becomes I almost have to kind of schedule when I know I need assistance from the Public Works for certain jobs around, okay, they're getting ready for leaf season in the fall. They're vacuuming up all the leaves. I'm not going to bug them. Like, I know, like, the crew's out all over the township every single day, all over the place. I try and get most of my stuff and assistance from them in the spring before they get into heavy road work and everything like that. So I kind of work around them a little bit. If something pops up, we sit down with them. I said, hey, is there a day that you could slide me in that would work best for their schedule and what crews they have available and everything? And for the most part, they're pretty accommodating. We can typically get something done within a week. Now, if it's an emergency, they'll make it happen for us. But yeah, I have one crew for 14 parks now. And so yeah, it can get challenging. And I mean, I'm in a municipality with just under 27,000 residents. So we have 14 parks, getting ready possibly to bring on 2 more parks in the next year. So it's
And is your
definitely
staff a union shop? So you're a union shop as well, or no, you don't have to deal with that?
No. So here's the interesting part. Our Public Works department is a union shop. My staff person is not.
Okay.
He does
So in
not have
worst
to
case
be.
scenario, you could hop on a mower and you wouldn't get grieved.
Right. Well, fortunately, we contract out mowing altogether.
Oh, all right.
Um,
Well, yeah, different
but
situation. I mean,
but
some people are in
so
that situation. You can't even wet a paintbrush, otherwise you're gonna get a grievance.
right, right. So the thing is like, so for instance, we were putting a bunch of benches and trash receptacles and kind of updating all those, and I needed an operator. Now, could we show my one maintenance person how to operate the skid steer to auger the holes? Absolutely. But under the union shop, there's operators. So I had to work with Public Works to schedule it accordingly. So there's an operator that could come out. And for Public Works and everything, it's not just one operator bringing out the equipment and operating it. It's
No,
a
now
minimum of
you got a
it's a minimum
flagger.
of
Now
two.
you need a spotter. Now you need these other things.
Right. So it's a minimum of two. And then I had my seasonal guy and my full-time guy out. And so there's four guys out there augering holes for one trash can or one bench. Now it was multiples within parks, but yeah, I mean, so now I'm taking two guys away from Public Works to come out and help us out with that and everything. But I mean, we have a really good symbiotic working relationship. It's been great to have that and everything, because previous to my time here, the parks maintenance department had 4 staff members, but they spent 90% of their time mowing grass. So
Or sleeping in a truck.
right,
You know, so
it
with
became
the
anti.
situation that you just had, then, I mean, in that, how does that work budget wise? Is it a wash, or are you basically being charged by Public Works and then you have to show that on your books and then that makes a difference at the general ledger meeting?
Good
Or is
question.
that magic of
It
accountants?
it it it, it really the only thing that our Public Works does is, so we have our sewer authority, which is basically it's the township sewer authority and the township, 2 entities, but very intertwined and connected. So if Public Works staff is out doing things to assist sewer authority, then it's billed sewer authority. But if it's all internal in township stuff, I've never have to pay out of my operating budget the cost for a Public Works crew to be out augering holes for me for 3 hours.
So that
Or
makes your
anything like
budgets
that.
for your projects kind of skewed then too, because you're not actually showing the actual costs, or are you capturing that?
No, I really have to focus on material costs only.
Okay.
It yeah, our budgeting process is interesting and antiquated all at the same time.
Such are most budgets. It's more art than it is science, I've found.
So I mean, I'm fortunate on that part that I don't have to account for the staffing of and utilizing Public Works. And this isn't the only municipality. My previous municipality was the same. I'd have for our township day, our big community event every year, I'd have 6 to 8 Public Works staff the entire day at the event, helping with trash and helping out with different things throughout the entire day. They're all getting paid overtime, and it's all the senior guys that did it. I had great relationships with them.
Yeah.
And you know what? It
It's an
never showed
expensive
up.
day real quick, isn't it?
Right, but it never showed up on my budget, or did I have to account for it in the event budget overall. That was part of the Public Works budget. It was incorporated into their budget. And because ultimately we have in that municipality, I actually got a portion of the millage assigned.
Right.
Here where I'm at now, there's the millage, there's a general fund, and they work all the departments under that. We're not assigned a certain percentage of the millage. And they just kind of work within the overall allocated funds that are going to come in the upcoming year.
Right.
So,
Sounds a
I
lot like
mean,
higher education budgets. It's like, well,
yeah,
it's just a zero balance budget. And if you don't use it by the end of the year, then you may not get as much next year. So make sure you're as close to zero as possible.
yeah, and I mean, and they move it. They like if we don't expend all of our funds, they'll carry over for cash reserve for the
Oh, you
upcoming
got
year.
carryover. That's a benefit.
Well, yeah, it's not directly to the department. So they kind of put it in the cash reserve to help balance upcoming budget and
Got
so
it.
forth. So now when I was in White Marsh Township's previous one, they would actually, so if I was under expenditures and showed revenue for the year, they would take that and assign it directly to my line item going into the next year. Because I never came in with a balanced budget when I presented my budget for the next year. It was always something. Because you can't expand, you can't grow, you can't meet the growing needs if you're not asking for more money. Would they say no? And you got to tweak it? And absolutely. But I always came
Now,
in.
that makes sense. Yeah. I mean, so if you don't show that you're at a deficit, you really almost don't have justification for asking for more. That's a good thought
Right.
process. All right.
And I do the same thing here. And they've been accommodating the 3 years I've processed the budget for them and everything at this point in time. So I go
The
for it.
Oliver Twist mentality, huh?
Yeah, and they're not requiring me through fees and charges to offset any percentage or requirement of my budget. I mean, I charge fees for rentals and for programming and everything. And I've said since day one, since I've been here, our program fees will offset program expenditures, which
Sure.
we're doing, and everything. So yeah, it financially and budgetarily, it's a really good spot right now. But those hard decisions are going to change as you move forward in the future, depending on tax revenues and everything like that, population size and demand. They want me to do new parks. They want me to do bike ped plans. All this is going to cost us money and maintenance costs beyond that. So it's going to be an ongoing process. And how do we address that? And how do we address the funding needs?
Al, do you find yourself in the same situation, or are you in a special park district where you get endless amounts of tax dollars?
Well, I'm actually not in that part of the, I mean, that's management stuff. So
Okay.
I'm I'm a crew lead, so I don't have to deal
So
with
you just
that.
get your budget.
I get my budget, yeah, and I make it work. So but we're fairly well financed here. I mean, our management here is really good at finding dollars, and the public really likes parks here. I mean, it's a big deal. So they see something they want, they go screaming, and money is often found.
They become your advocate at that point, huh?
Exactly. This city is full of parks advocates.
Okay.
So it's a really good place to work, and that makes it a good place to work for people. Um,
Sure.
like you were saying, there's a lot of older guys in the field. I'm one of them. You know, I got 2 years to go. But
You're counting down at this
but
point.
but we have a crew here that, you know, uh, late 20s to early 30s is probably most of them.
Oh, wow. Oh, great.
Yeah. So and they're all hardworking. They they come in as a maintenance tech, and uh, our management seems fit to train people up. And once you're in the door, you know, the only way you can move up within the maintenance department basically is you start at the bottom and you work up.
Upskilling.
But
Okay.
but I mean they give you that opportunity. They'll train you, and I mean the mentoring here is wonderful. You can't fail. If you want to put a little bit of effort into it, you can't fail here.
Okay. Now, where did that culture come from then? I mean, was it
It was
naturally kind of because of the
it
folks in
was
your community, or was it driven by a specific?
it was driven by our management here. When management changed about, I'm going to say the management changed here about 30 years ago. That just tells you how long I've been here, longer than that. But the 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 manager that was here, he had ideas, but he couldn't make anything move because he was dealing with, he was dealing with the old lunchbox crowd. You know, they played ping pong at lunchtime for 3 hours. Well, those people
It's a
went,
long
and
lunchtime, huh?
he brought in new people, and things started changing. He brought in new supervisors, new managers, and I mean, it was a snowball effect, and now it's a really positive place to work. So people like it. If we hire one person, I mean, we've got a crew of like 35 people working here in the Parks Department alone.
Okay.
If there's an opening here, it's surprising in a year. We might hire a new person once every 3 years or something. It's it's a tight knit group. We stick together too.
And are you guys a union or non-union shop?
Yep, we're a union shop.
Okay. That's an
So
interesting process. And the
yeah,
union buys into that, the kind of
union
what you
buys
have
into it.
going on?
Yep, yep.
Oh,
It's
okay.
union is very supportive of it because, well, let's face it. I think it was funny because I used to be on the negotiating team for the union. And we went in, and the city at that point wanted to extend probationary periods for a year. Oh, we need to evaluate for a year, and we had a 6 month probationary period, and still do. As the union, we went in there and we said, "Hey, we don't want to have a 6 month probationary period either. 1 month would be. I mean, if you're working with a person, they're in the truck with you for a month. You know they're a dick right off the bat. They need
Sure.
to go." I mean, pardon my French, but that's true. If I
Well,
got to work with a guy,
you can figure that out usually in a couple hours, but
yeah, yeah. So we don't need it. But they were doing this thing. They were like, oh, well, it's 6 months. Well, we just we want to extend their probation because we haven't had a good enough look at them. And there's really some flags. And it's like,
huh.
well,
Okay.
we don't want them here. I mean, we got to, you're down in at human resources, and you're telling us that we need to evaluate them more. Hey, man, I evaluated them enough in the first 20 minutes. We don't need to evaluate them more. We don't need to extend them more. If they're lousy now and this is their time to shine, you know, uh, writing's on the wall here. This guy's a jerk. Goodbye.
Yeah, we call them NFWs,
Yeah.
So, uh, what have you found though, I guess along with that kind of, what about getting people in the door, attracting them to begin with? Doesn't sound like you have very much turnover that you need to worry about it.
No,
But I
there's a
guess
huge amount of turnout. But
what are folks doing to actually, get those young folks? Because some people are complaining no one's applying.
yeah, that's true. Nobody is applying, and it's sad. I think it's kind of funny because when I hired in here, I was one of 400 people that applied for the position, and I don't know why they hired me. I still can't figure that part out. But
Don't
the
admit that.
last go round, I think there were something like 35 applications for the position, and they were excited that they'd got 35 applications.
Wow.
So I don't know what the answer to the question is. I mean, it's how do we get more people interested in this? And I mean, parks departments, especially maintenance departments, are so bad at promoting themselves. We need to figure out how to promote ourselves better. We
Well,
just do a lousy job. I mean, I'm looking at the screen here, and there's 5 of us here, and there should be 105 of us here.
there's only actually 4 of us because I'm in here
Oh,
twice.
yeah, okay. But how do we promote ourselves better? We're not. What did the guy say? One of our guys one time said, yeah, he works in the sewer crew over in Public Works, but he said, you know, nobody really cares about us. We're not sexy, but the minute things screw up, boy, we're the top dog. I was like, yeah,
Mhm.
how do we promote ourselves better? We're not doing a good job.
Well, and this may be something I question, or maybe something a conversation for unions in the future is that maybe we need to figure out a different kind of pay structure because when you really think about it, when you're 18 to 25, do you really care about benefits? Do you
Yeah,
really care about your retirement? Like all of these conversations, oh, it's good benefits, but crap pay. Well, what if we just paid them and didn't give them benefits as much to start and then let them work up And then eventually maybe the pay increase doesn't get as big and you start adding benefits in, because as you get older, all of a sudden your teeth start going bad and all the other stuff happens. And hey, I need my health care now. Maybe that's something to put on the table, or at least start considering, because I'm finding statistics show until you're 25 years old, your brain can't even conceive of consequences.
Yeah.
So why do you think everyone that's 18 to 25 is who you send off to war?
Yeah, but BK, there is stipulation that depending on how much you work or how many hours you work, you have to supply benefits.
I know.
So, I mean, and for that, I think for municipalities to have tailored benefit packages for staff, depending on where they're at, I mean, it's not cost effective for a municipality because you get one package across the board, same for everybody. You're
Right.
getting a better rate overall.
Valid, very valid points.
So I think to that point though is, I mean, and Al brought it up. I think we have to promote our trades and so forth a little bit better, and saying, hey, do you want to work for 15 an hour in a grease pit at McDonald's, or 20 an hour, whatever it is now, because it seems to go up incrementally
daily.
by the day. Or, I mean, come out, learn a life skill, and you're outdoors, you're benefiting from the parks while you're working in them at the same time, and not trapped. And honestly, if you're not a people person and you don't want to be in a customer
You're on a mower
service role,
75% of your day.
right? If you don't want to be in that customer service role, now are you gonna have to interact with people? Absolutely, but it's not going to be a customer service type situation where you're interacting constantly. And and honestly, the younger generation, they don't know how to communicate and have conversations because it's not on a text, or it's not an IM or whatever. It's not abbreviated symbols or emojis on Instagram. They can't talk. They can't communicate. So this might be the perfect job for them, is to sit on the mower and learn something and then take that skill later. But I agree. I mean, I think the whole trade side of it, there's really no, like, we do it as more recreation professionals. Like, why is it fun? Why do you want to come out and be a recreation professional and everything? Like, for the first part of my career, I got to come in, plan things, play games, and get paid for it. I mean, there's not too many places or jobs that you get to play games and do arts and crafts and all that kind of stuff. Now, my role changed pretty rapidly, and now I'm the bureaucrat sitting behind the desk writing grants.
Yeah, how do you feel about it now? You want to go
So-
back sit on a mower?
So, I mean, but it happens. But that's the growth and the path that I chose, and everything. So, but we promoted our field and everything like that. But that doesn't, and outside of, we don't do it in the trades. We don't promote the trades. We don't promote, like, what is really, can you get out of it by doing park maintenance or whatever. And the gentleman I have, Luke, he is constantly, like I said earlier, he's learning, and if we have a problem and we have something, I give him an opportunity to help, like, kind of figure it out and see what we can do. With the stipulation is, I'm not going to let you, kind of, as you put it, hillbilly repair it, because then I'm gonna have to repair it 10 more times.
Yeah, don't void my warranty.
Right. You're not drilling a hole in the playground equipment. But if you can bring me a solution that we mutually agree that is going to be a strong permanent repair, I'll give them the opportunity to do it before going out to a contractor. Because my mentality for maintenance, a Band-Aid is a Band-Aid. It gets ripped off and you're gonna have to put another Band-Aid on, and it just costs me more money. I'd rather spend the money up front now it might be a little hit this year, but it's going to be tenfold if I wait and have to repair it 5 more times and spend that money to do that final permanent repair 5 years down the road.
That's that asset
So,
management statistic, you know,
yeah.
$1 preventative maintenance saves you $5 in replacement cost.
Absolutely. So that's kind of how I approach it. And it is a little different situation here compared to some of the larger municipalities and everything, that they have bigger departments and everything like that. I mean, I'm maintaining 20 plus parks with maybe, I think next year's budget, taking out a couple large projects, is about $45,000. That's just maintenance. That doesn't count mowing. That's a whole separate line number, and some of the capital improvements and stuff, they're separate line. But just the day in and day out maintenance, I'm going to have about $35K to maintain 14 parks. So,
Which, when you really look at it, is not that much money. Yeah.
No, especially when the master plan I finished said $35K a year to maintain the new park that we are looking to build.
Just one alone, right?
Just
Absolutely.
one park, and I'm doing it for 14 parks. So being smart, being proactive, and hitting it when it's a trickle and not a flood, definitely helps us overall.
Well, it sounds like a lot of us are in that same boat, you know. So we're past our time here. I really appreciate this conversation going on, which means we're not wasting time because no one's quiet the entire time. But Al, Danny, welcome. Maybe next time you'll have some ability to jump in with some conversation, but please reach out to me. We do have 3 roundtables scheduled for 2024. We are in the process of getting our new system up, so registration and things are kind of on the pause until the new year right now. But stay on top of what we're sending out. If you're not on the e-newsletter, pick it up. It's free. And just keep an eye on LinkedIn and things like that. That's where I do most of my blasting of promotion. But I really appreciate y'all contributing today, and I am here as a resource to you. So please feel free to reach out. Let me know what kind of challenges and questions you may have, because it helps everyone in the grand scheme of things, because I just collect it and put it into the Institute website. So thank you for participating, everyone, and we'll look forward to hosting you again next year.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks, BK. Have a good holiday if I don't see you.
Yep. Happy holidays, everyone.